Live from Lincoln and broadcasting across the state of Nebraska, it's the Average Joe Sports Show. This is the place for Husker sports with the biggest names, the best interviews, and all the inside scoops.
I got a front row seat with a big tub of buttered popcorn and a greasy half-live chicken leg.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Weekend editions here, the Average Joe Sports Show, rocking and rolling on a Saturday. And what are we at? 7:52. If you had that as the watermark, you are a winner. We'll get you a roll of toilet paper and a pack of smokes. It is bye weekend. Plenty of great football on the docket today. Florida State last night. No more unbeaten for Florida State. Huskers trying to regroup. Good stuff from Matt Rule this week on Pat McAfee. We'll remember a Husker legend as well in Matt Verzel. And guys, good to spend some time with you this morning. The old alarm clock came quicker than expected. Forgive me.
'Tis the weekend.
Yeah. It's a bye week. It's a bye week.
It is a bye week. Yeah. Hey, this is one of the best. I think this is one of the best slates of college football games that I can remember in years, with all of the matchups that there are. Whether this has been set up by the conference realignments and things are finally settling, I don't know. But the matchups today are, I don't want to say must-see TV because that's a cliche. But, man alive, there's some great games on. And the weekend got off to a good start last night with Virginia and Florida State. I don't know if that puts a damper in Tony White's UCLA plans, but great weekend.
The question is, and I'm not sure if you guys were watching Florida State last night, did he catch it in the back of the end zone?
I don't think they got it. Was that Virginia?
No, I'm talking Florida State.
So they gave him the touchdown.
And then they overturned it to incomplete.
Okay. So they catch that. There's no overtime.
For Florida State?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was trapped.
No, sorry. In overtime. The touchdown for Florida State was good. In overtime, the bobble in the back of the end zone. I see what you're talking about now. But there's a bobble in the back of the end zone that they say he didn't have it. I don't know, man.
Charlottesville was a nightmare. Wow. I mean, you see that field, everyone's just creeping, and then fourth down play in overtime, and then boom.
Well, they haven't had a lot to celebrate in football for a while. The Bronco Mendenhall era didn't go well, and Tony Elliott's tenure hasn't been great, but one person carried up on a stretcher and dozens other, and it's going to tear up that field for a while. Mayhem.
Well, just do yourself a favor. When you're in position to storm the field, wear a Kellen Houston jersey. Thank you, Bill. You got that. No, I know.
Over my head.
Do you remember the story of Nebraska's backup secondary player that jacked the Missouri player, then had to go to court for it?
Did what to him?
Oh, he had some trust fund puke from Missouri.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay.
It was taunting a travel squad player for Nebraska that didn't see much action, but had the best hit of the game. It was wild.
Your verb usage there confused me slightly.
Yeah, that can happen. But fellas, Nebraska now at 3-1. And we kind of did this exercise with Brandon Vogel on Thursday. But where would you place Nebraska in the Big Ten right now? Eye test 1 through 18. Clearly not in that 12 through 18 window, but maybe a little bit above that. Where would you put Nebraska? Does Nebraska lose back-to-back games this year? If so, what's the stretch? And, those are a couple of things to touch on. Mr. Erickson has checked in as we shout out our starting five, giving a salute to Tony White. Uncle Larry is in. Good to have Uncle Larry here. Mike up from Cali, shouting out James Williams. Did see on Twitter this week Nebraska's portal departures and their stats for the season. Well done, fellas. Arlo is here. Black Hills Brennan says, I need a 6+ leg average. Average Joe parlay before he heads to Wyoming. Can we do that, Elijah? Can we huddle up with Billy D and put a 16 parlay together?
I mean, is that what we're gonna do on a Saturday morning? Is just bad gambling advice?
Well, somebody got home right after last call, and like I said, the alarm was a little early. NASCAR Eric is here. Charles is in. Good to have you, fellas. Captain is here. Captain, totally got you there, Big Cat. Thank you for joining. Tuck is in. Bill Doleman is here, along with the good monk. NP Bulldog. Love it. Got some North Platte love going on. So has the show started? I can't seem to get the video up yet.
We're good now. We're good now.
Love that. That's funny. Corn Raider is in. Absolutely. Rip Vers, one of a kind. A lot of tributes and just great tributes yesterday to Vers. MK is in. Ed Foley is here. Says he's 15th. Jake checking in, and more comments from you.
Wait, so Schmitty, you made it home after last call last night.
I did.
Goodness, Schmitty, you're enjoying your bye week, huh?
A little bit. I sent out the old bat signal to Jay Moore because we were.
What are you doing?
No, I didn't call him. I just texted. Yeah, he will beat the hell out of you,
man.
He will beat the hell out of me. I wake Jay and the family up. But no, we were in Jay's neighborhood. That's why I sent up the bat signal. It's funny that you have a situation where there's the place we're talking about. We've all been to together. And there's black and white art on the wall from time to time. And it's funny because if you're with the right people, they snap a picture of some guy's bare ass and send it to you the next morning. So.
Well, were you like at a fraternity party something last night?
No, what was funny is Junior. After my ball game, I did the East game last night. Great ball game between them and Kearney. I show up at a bar, another bar, and Junior's there with Mama and some friends. And I'm like, "What are you doing? It's Friday night. It's 9:30. Why are you here?" He's like, "Dude, got after it way too much Thursday night. We had our frosh." So he's just drinking water, hats on backward, looks like hell. Like, so you're with us tonight? He's like, yeah, but we got a darty. We got a big. He's probably cleaning the fraternity house right now as we speak, and he's got a day party he's got to gear up for. So I'm kind of proud of him. He's pacing himself and spacing it out. You know, it's not consecutive losses like we're talking about here, possibly from Nebraska.
Great day for a darty, by the way, Junior. Hats off to you. The weather couldn't be any better. The college football on today. That's a great day for a darty. I will say, last night I went up to Omaha engagement party. Congrats, Jacob and Izzy. Great little just celebration at a bar right across the street from West Side High School. When I tell you they had like a little spot.
Oh, yeah. I love that little strip mall area. Did you go to the Cedar Room?
No, Casual Pint was.
Yes, Casual Pint's great. The Cedar Room is where divorces happen, allegedly.
Good to know, Schmidt. I'll pop that one away. Thank you for that.
I've been warned about that one from people that are in the West Side District.
But I pull up and I am like, you couldn't have picked a bar a little further away from one of the most popular high school football spots. The parking was hell.
Oh, it's Yeah, but that's a good little area. That's good.
And also, how about Central getting a big win against Westside last night? Which, congratulations, Millard South, your 2025 Class A state football champions. Maybe I'm overreacting to one game, but we thought Westside is the best opportunity. No offense to that Westside program. I just think Millard South, they're on a different playing field this year.
Oh, fellas, it's you're going through the schedules last night, and the only people that South hasn't hung 70 on is that squad out of Missouri. And
it was Vegas.
Was it Vegas? Okay.
It was Vegas.
Thank you for that. But for them to put up 50 with a running clock, let alone get to 72 and then beat our Southeast Knight 77-0 with a running clock. That's
welcome to Fairbury High football circa 1984.
without a running clock. I mean, remember Bill Doleman sending me out, I'll go do this Fall City Pius game. We got to get your chops up. I'm like, yeah, you're right, Bill. And 77-0, $35 to go do the game. You owe 38 in gas. By the time you get down and back to Fall City, wasn't even Fall City Sacred Heart. It was Fall City v. Pius. Pius rolls in like they're the 94 Huskers and decimate this poor Fall City community and drop a 77-0. First game, Bill Doleman assignment. Go do this one. It'll be a good one.
Builds character.
No, thank you.
Builds character.
Learn how to fill. Brandon Vogel is with us from Counter-Read, counterread.com. Vogues, you can huddle up with us, Big Cat. Appreciate you spending time. We've got to put a 6-team parlay together for Black Hills Brennan. Are you down?
Yeah, I heard that, and I started working on it. I've got a 6-team all nooner ready to go. So we don't even you'll be paid out before 3:30 or not, if we want to do that.
Well, I think I'm all over Syracuse plus 4.5 against Duke.
That's in there. I like Georgia Tech 13.5 over Wake.
You
Arkansas,
clearly had Virginia last night to get us going.
I did. Not on the money line, but yeah.
Vogues is now calling us from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, if you want to play around with the money line with Arkansas, I don't hate it, but you can get 4.5 there against Notre Dame. Kansas, I think, is going to stomp Cincy pretty good, but that's only 4.5. North Texas, I like a lot over South Alabama, minus 12.5. And then we'll finish off with Louisville, minus 3.5 on the road at Pitt. That's my 6.
Okay. I think Brom is, like him or not, the guy is pretty money. He's a really good coach, and that is a talent-rich area. I mean, he can clean up. The best job in college football is Kentucky because they'll pay you $7 million a year to go 7-6.
I got to be honest. Vogues is a little ahead of me on his North Texas, South Alabama prep. So I'm just going to take his word on that one.
I mean, North Texas kind of jumped out against Army last week and then let it slip away and still won in overtime. I think the Mean Green is in contention for that G5 playoff spot potentially.
Good on them.
I like old Jake here is going Washington. God, I hope they win today. I hope they not only win, but I hope they drill. And I kind of want Signetti to do a repeat performance. You know it.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. The Washington, I liked it a lot better. I just saw on Twitter before we hopped on here. I think Pete Thamel tweeted out that they're going to be without one of their top cornerbacks, which against Ohio State is suboptimal. So that one gives me a little pause there, but I do like. I'm really intrigued to see what Washington does there.
Brandon Vogel with us from Counter-Read, counterread.com. Vogues, let's dive into a little running back talk. And this was brought up by Elijah, and it was good stuff. just with where Nebraska's at, what they've recruited, what they're trying to develop, they have held off in the portal, trying to go that route to go, quick fix. So I applaud them for saying, all right, these are our guys. This is who we think can become a really good running back at the University of Nebraska. But the here and now is there's not a running mate with Emmett Johnson. Maybe that changes after the bye week. Maybe it doesn't. And you just don't have that change up right now. And even if it's a two-back setup, which you saw, a little bit briefly, maybe 4 or 5 plays of it sprinkled in, Nebraska, between an offensive line that's having trouble in the high red zone, and there's no, part of the we back setup, you're just seeing things that you haven't seen in a while, in our lifetime, really, with Nebraska football. And is Nebraska too stingy? And Rule answered this on Monday about, well, dude, we've got a budget. There's no money trees planted around Memorial Stadium. And I'm paraphrasing, but I like the ownership they're taking of, hey, let's develop who we brought in. But push comes to shove, what's this team look like right now if they've got another running mate with Emmett running the football? Or doesn't matter because the offensive line's a work in progress, especially in the high red zone.
Yeah, it's tough. It's certainly a different era of college football, which is like the most obvious thing to say. Nobody needed to be reminded of that, but like seeing it to this level of, you have to think, and who knows, because all this stuff is kind of like black box. We don't really know like what the GM process is like at any of these schools. But we know in the NFL that like if you're valuing positions, if you're budgeting, essentially, running backs down the list a bit. That's just kind of the way football is. And so when you make that decision in the offseason, in April, May, June, whenever it was, you can kind of say like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like you set your number and it went above that. So you decided to sit this one out. But here you go, you get 4 games in, and the lack of a consistent second option becomes a big thing. And it's all tied together because like you look at the O-line, which struggled against Michigan, certainly, and Cincinnati to a degree too. And look at what Nebraska did there. It's expensive for those players. I mean, how many tackles did they bring in during the portal before they got Pritchett? And like the later you go in the process, like the more expensive it gets because the resources become more scarce. So it's kind of all tied together, and it's easy to second guess at this point based on what we've seen, but we'll see if the off week helps Nebraska kind of sort through the running back scenario. Is there a guy who emerged who put in a good week that's like, you know what, we're getting that guy 15 carries a game. Emmett's going to get what he gets. He's a valuable part of the offense, but we need somebody, and maybe you choose somebody to be that second guy and see how it goes.
In retrospect, don't you think it's a little problematic now that more guys didn't get more carries against Akron and Houston Christian? Those should have been auditions and who's next, who's going to be in line. Because if you take a look at Nebraska's numbers, and I just did because I had a hunch that it was going to look like this, Emmett Johnson has more than half of Nebraska's carries in the rushing attack. He has 71 carries. They've run the ball 138 times. So Quentin Ives, believe it or not, Quentin Ives has the second most carries on the team with 16, tied with Dylan Raiola. Wow. Okay, so Dylan Raiola with 16 carries and Quentin Ives with 16 carries had the second most to Emmett Johnson this season. Probably should have had more carries going to the backups in those blowout games than pad Emmett Johnson's stats. And it's great to see him getting 100 yards and he earned them, but shouldn't backups be twice what they are and Dillon not be the second most prolific ball carrier for Nebraska? Unless he's a willing runner, right? He's not a willing runner.
Right. And 7 of those are sacks against Michigan, and there were 2 against Cincinnati. So, like,
Right.
in retrospect, and like it looked good when you beat Akron the way you did, and it looked good when you beat Houston Christian the way that you did. But then seeing how things unfolded and the conversation we're having now about running back and depth in particular, like, aside from getting those guys more carries, like Nebraska threw the ball a lot. Like they kept throwing it when they were way up at halftime in both games. And, that's good. It's good for TJ Lateef. He put up huge numbers on a few amount of attempts, but you do kind of wonder, like, did you sacrifice a little bit of, we're going to put this score way up there and keep throwing the football, when maybe that could have been a little bit more development time, not just in terms of carries, but in terms of like, we need to work on this.
What's even crazier about that, Bill, what you just brought up is he sat out like the second half of 2 games, and he's still close to top 10 in the country in carries. I mean, he's missed 4 quarters. That's how reliant they have become on him. Is it a situation where you can afford to keep doing that, and that's just kind of how it is this year, right? I mean, is that what Nebraska's facing, where they're like, the reason why we don't have a number 2 is because there ain't a number 2. So we got Emmett.
I think that's it, dude.
Yeah, so we got Emmett and we got Bubble Wrap and we got a really good recovery program. So,
Sleep pods.
That's just what's up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reality. Those carries get more expensive in Big Ten play. Like that's the that's the risk. And I mean, I think we all kind of sit here and look at it, and you hope the guy goes through the season and it's fine and it's all good. But you just look at the sheer amount, and it's like, man, that's a lot of tackles, a lot of being tackled, a lot of bumps and bruises to sustain for 8 more games.
And the thing is, I like Emmett. I think Emmett's a good running back. Yeah. Gary brought it up last weekend that Emmett would be better served in a running back pairing where he's not the one shouldering the entire load. And I think that kind of comes down to Nebraska not valuing that out of the portal. But one of the things I talked about yesterday, Brandon, was that if you use the NFL as a model, a game-breaking type running back, explosive threat out of the backfield, that's a luxury item in the NFL. Where you look, the Eagles go and get Saquon Barkley because they feel like they're a Super Bowl contender. You can say the same with Derrick Henry going off to Baltimore. Like if you're going to go pay a running back, it's kind of the final piece to the puzzle. Does that hold true for college football as well? Is one of those high-end running backs like Justice Haynes going to Michigan, is that a luxury item in college football, or is that a necessity in college football?
I think it's a luxury item still. And, with what we've seen from the Nebraska offense, and I think what they probably knew was coming, like in terms of transfer portal performance, like they did the best at wide receiver. So they probably like the guys. They definitely like their quarterback, as Matt Rule talks about every opportunity. And that's justified in my opinion. And, so I think they knew they were going to be a little bit more pass-based than they'd been over the previous 2 seasons. And I think you put that in a good way, Elijah, of like, okay, if you feel like everything's lined up, like we're good in terms of experience, guys coming back, what we got in the portal. But if we can get a elite running back on campus and they're interested, maybe you pay a little bit more in that scenario because, you see it with guys like Haynes and others throughout the country. Like you can get by with just a kind of fleet of guys who are good and execute well. But there are certain guys who just have the speed and the maneuverability to turn 25-yard runs into 75-yard runs. And that is a luxury.
So when he was talking at the press conference earlier this week, and he's talking about, I didn't have the money to pay that other people had, which was like, I thought Nebraska had endless supplies of money in the athletic department and NIL. So was he talking about Marty Brown? Or was he talking about the ability to keep Dante Dowdell, but Kentucky was willing to perhaps overpay for him, so we can't match what they wanted to pay. So Nebraska's Weebacks had to break up. But I mean, I tend to think it was that he was talking about Brown, and they couldn't compete with whatever Miami was paying him, and however Miami was paying him. The postcards from South Beach are pretty nice. We might have a sleep pod and a nice whirlpools, but they got an ocean and all kinds of other accoutrements. So, but that's what I was wondering. Was it paying Dowdell and not overpaying him, or was it trying to bring in Marty Brown because, he was coveted?
Well, and let's wonder about what you upped or bumped Emmett to as well, right? Because he jumped into the portal too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I took that comment as mostly about Brown, like 85%. But yeah, you could probably put 15% towards Dowdell too. Because I think in both cases, like, to me, it's less about Nebraska didn't have the money as maybe they're like, this is what we'll pay. And it went above that. And, at that point, you gotta make a choice of, okay, are we willing to go 15% above in this specific instance? And those are all kind of case by case.
Dude, college football is like, it's like a fantasy football team right now. It's just, guys will come available out of freaking nowhere. Even think about Raiola, right? Like that, the entire staff had one kind of mindset of what was going to happen with their recruiting class. And then like a week before, Dylan's like, hey, I'm coming. Yeah, that changes the calculation a little bit. It's just, it's insane what's going on. Is there any talk of a cap or anything because that would require a governing body. We all know there needs to be a salary cap. We all know there needs to be like different, more defined windows of player movement and things like that. But is there anything on the horizon for that, or are we just kind of stuck in chaos land for the foreseeable future?
Your cap, right, Vogues, is what, 20.5 for everybody?
But that doesn't include NIL.
There it is.
No, I know.
Yeah.
NIL is its own ocean right now.
But so then there's really no cap on paying players, right?
Yeah, I mean, so 20.5 is the revenue sharing cap, which practically it's lower than that because that's for all sports. And I don't think there's any school out there that's just like, yep, 20.5 for football, nobody else gets anything. But
Chris has had it with it. He has had it.
Yeah,
and for folks just listening,
but,
Chris has just exited this conversation. He's going to go back and watch 90s football.
Right. The NIL enforcement part of it, that was the question coming in always was like, is this going to have any teeth? And I think what we're seeing so far is most of those deals that are over 600, which is the point where you have $600, where you need, it to be vetted essentially. All of those things.
It needs to be actual money made off of your name, image,
actual
and likeness.
Actual NIL, not pay to play.
How do they do that? So submit your commercial. We need to see that you actually did a commercial for it.
I'm sure Harper Murray was paid $599 by Adidas to put her image on Love Library. We're going to keep it under.
It would be interesting to see how many 599 deals are out there, because I bet there's quite a few.
The enforcement wing has really been just okay. Signed off, cool. Thanks for checking with us. Appreciate it. It was how much? We don't care.
I mean, yeah. Let's do the math here. 100 some players on 130 some teams. How many deals are we talking about? Good luck reviewing all that.
They're just stamping everything that comes in that office. I haven't seen a single denial yet, which I am not boots on the ground, checking every single day, but I haven't seen them deny it.
I think that there have been reports that there are a handful, and there's only a staff of people that are going through all those, and there's a bunch of them coming in. So
I want that job.
It's probably exactly. It's probably being rubber stamped for the most part, and they select every 50 that come in and then figure out which ones they're going to approve and which ones they're not going to approve. I mean, look, we talked about this all leading up to the season with that 20.5. It increases next year for the next 5 years. And then eventually it's going to have to be restructured because that money is going to go away. So then what happens? That 2.5 billion is amongst everybody, and eventually it's gone. Probably by 2030, when we think the landscape of college football is going to change again, because that's, remember, when conference TV contracts start to come up for renewal, and what's going to happen with the ACC network and Florida State and Clemson and all of that right around 2030 comes back into the fold, and that's the settlement money and whatever. But so 2030 is really your date to see the next tsunami that hits college football, and then see what other destruction happens to the rest of the college sports model, right?
Vogues, if this has been addressed, apologies. I had to get the kid up and the puppies out, but forgive me for scooting out. But
Welcome
does
back.
Does Nebraska make the cut if there's a 60-team Super League?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you better be up to speed by 2030. It sounds like, where you're winning 8-9 ball games a year and getting eyeballs.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at it and the influence that they hold in the sport, so the SEC and the Big Ten account for what, 34 of those? And like, yeah, we could talk about like, well, is Vanderbilt, in that group? And that depends on, like, right now
Every
they're
year.
Vanderbilt looks like they're progressing. So there's those teams, and like, no matter the recent history, I think, given the resources devoted to Nebraska's athletic department, football program in particular, its history certainly, like, you'd have to get to a point where you're like lopping off half of the Big Ten, to be in a spot where you're like, I don't know if Nebraska makes the top 60, because like, what are you replacing half the Big Ten with, and potentially half the SEC? Like, are the replacements there in the ACC and the Big 12? Which I don't mean that like disrespectfully. It's just, you just look at it, and with the way the playoff kind of negotiations, for lack of a better term, because the Big Ten and the SEC are the strong arm here. Like, the Big 12 and the ACC are kind of they're not operating from a position of power. And if we get to a point where it's 60-team Super League, like, I think that would remain the case.
But by the way, hey Brandon, you've been a numbers guy for a long time, and who knows what it's done to your subconscious, because I know black and white numbers are black and white numbers, but you have had to review some really god-awful, ugly, ridiculous offensive numbers for several years now, and be like, yards per play are at 0.2. This is a problem. What can you describe maybe the shift, just how dramatic of a shift it has been numbers wise for Nebraska? Kind of anything that stands out, because you have Dylan Raiola and the passing offense now, top 15, top 10, top 5 in some cases. Like, how dramatic of a shift has it been under Holgorsen?
Yeah, I think the one that jumps out to me, because I kind of came into the season, because Raiola completed like 68, 69% a year ago, and I think in those 4 Holgorsen games at the end of the year, he was 70 or above, minus I think USC. And I was kind of like, well, it's tough to do much better than that. But they have. So I think what stands out to me so far about the offense is it has been, it's not the air raid, as we're careful to tell everybody all the time, but there's a lot of air raid kind of underpinnings to it, of makeable throws, get the ball out quickly, those sorts of things. And Raiola has seen his completion percentage rise a little bit. It's been hit or miss in terms of kind of his yards per attempt, which was the other big number I kind of came in wondering about. It was like, it's great to complete 70%, but if they go for barely over 6 yards an attempt, which is what it was, that's like true freshman kind of stuff in that, the guy's learning on the job. You try to keep it manageable. So they've gotten him good throws to make, I think, and he's made good throws. And at times we've seen that yards per attempt climb. But against Cincinnati and Michigan, the 2 power conference teams that they've played, it's looked a little closer to previous Nebraska offenses, not in terms of like play selection, but just in terms of production. So that becomes the thing moving forward of can you continue to scoring 27 against Michigan was like a big deal because Nebraska's done that like a handful of times against a power conference opponent. Can you do that over the remaining 8 Big Ten games? Can you be close to that? Because I think they need to be above 30 if we want to talk about Nebraska as a 9-win team.
And scoring.
Yep. And so they're in the hunt, but against 2 power conference teams, they didn't get there.
Yep.
Brandon Vogel with us here on the Average Joe Sports Show Weekend Edition. Go ahead, Elijah.
Yeah. Brandon, we've been talking this week, and before we get you out here, Dylan Raiola, there's been some national media talking heads who left the game against Michigan unimpressed. You had Tom Fornelli go as far as to say he thought Bryce Underwood was a better pre-snap processor than Dylan Raiola. Essentially, the discourse around Raiola has gotten kind of ridiculous. And it's because of the Patrick Mahomes thing. People are looking for a reason to hate him, I think.
Patrick Mahomes, I don't understand.
Yeah, apparently he looks like him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had been following. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's compared to him and Joe Flacco a lot.
Where are you at with the Dylan Raiola discourse in terms of his performance this season?
Tired of it, like Matt Rule and everybody else, I think, at least in Nebraska. Like, it was a bit surprising to see how much it was a consistent storyline through the week in terms of, like, Andy Staples in his Yahoo podcast jumped in on it. Cam Newton was talking about it. It's like there's, as Bill mentioned earlier in the show, like, this is an amazing slate of games. We're talking about Nebraska's quarterback who's on a bye week, who's been
played his ass off, by the way.
He's been really good in my opinion. Like, there's still weaknesses there, but that's true for almost any guy in the country. And you look at like what quarterback play has been like from some of the Heisman frontrunners coming into the year. Like, Raiola has been better than that. So, I mean, I think when you zoom out to the national stage, it becomes like, well, why isn't this 5-star quarterback that was such a big deal, Husker legacy, Patrick Mahomes clone, if you want to go there, which I don't, but people keep doing it. Why hasn't he like dragged Nebraska into the top 25? And he hasn't done that yet. But it's not, I don't think it's because of his level of play, particularly in 2025.
Yeah.
It is the laziest storyline in sports right now. Not just college football. The Dylan Raiola, Pat Mahomes thing, that was a thing last year. And it has been talked about. It was talked about ad nauseum last year. And I was so disappointed that CBS came in and did all of those graphics and mentions and all of that stuff again. And it's like, it is so tired. It is so lazy. And you're right. It's a topic of conversation. It is the sidebar to the season. But again, they're talking about Nebraska football. But at some point, people are going to go, you know what? He's not that bad. He's not a great runner, but his numbers are really good. And the preseason favorite for the Heisman Trophy dominated Sam Houston State and otherwise has been pedestrian. You know, I mean, if there's a bigger disappointment, and I love the Mannings. I think they're great for football. From Archie, who I saw play when, he was with the Saints. Look, I think Arch Manning is a classy guy. I think I admire the fact that he went to Texas and he stuck with Texas and he bided his time, and now it's his time. But he has not been a difference maker at all for that football team. And it was evident on big stage in game 1 against Ohio State. It was like, he wasn't ready for it. He looked like Dylan did last year as a true freshman. And I know Arch Manning's had some good games. I don't mean to pile on him, but that ought to be a bigger story in college football than the fact that for the 100th consecutive week, we know that Dylan Raiola likes Pat Mahomes. We also know that he had his hair cut that way in 7th grade before Pat Mahomes became a big thing.
The fact that we're even talking about
it's amazing.
quarterback haircuts is like,
it is so
what is
lazy.
going on?
It is so.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed that CBS brought it up again. They spent time graphically to put all these things together. It's over. It is the oldest and laziest story in football.
Yeah. It's probably simply because I almost called him Mahomes. I'm one of them now, sheep. Because Raiola runs to the end zones and does that jumping, yelling thing that Mahomes did. I think if he hadn't done that, that's fine. That's too much of a comp. He like walked and jumped right into that one. Everything else, maybe he'll have his Britney moment, and just shave his head and stuff, shave his eyebrows, grow a beard, right? Something just to kind of dissociate from it. But what a tired storyline.
I was thinking a different Britney, but
Oh, that's right. Oh, God. Of course. Oh, man.
After that CBS segment aired, because I had similar feelings. So it's like, we're doing this again. I asked in our subscriber chat, a perk you get at counterread.com, what would it take for these to end? And one commenter said he needs to shave his head and go punk rock. And I was like, yeah, I might actually do it.
Just like Dennis Rodman.
Yep.
Yeah. Earrings.
Get some Harrison Beck skinny jeans. Hang out at Knickerbockers.
What was Harrison's band name? That's a little average Joe trivia.
Oh, what was it?
Sharpie, you know it?
I don't know. I'm sure it was racist.
Yeah.
Maybe that was not the name, but maybe the songs were that way.
Yeah.
Remember how much hype there was for him?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, isn't Leon Jackson?
Yeah. Hey, isn't it nice to have a quarterback where there's hype and he actually lives up to it?
Yeah, he dragged his team kicking and screaming to almost pulling off a victory against, Michigan. That's pretty good.
By the way, I only got to watch a little bit of the recording, but for CBS, the dumb Raiola, comparison thing. But in terms of just like straight up production value of their game presentation, really good.
Yes,
dude.
Yeah,
they did.
I thought the big winner on Saturday was Jeff Mall of the Lincoln Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Yeah,
because those drone shots of Lincoln, oh my God, that looked like I like Lincoln, but boy, they really prettied the place up. So Jeff, I'd be using every bit of that drone footage to sell Lincoln to whoever you're trying to get to come into town.
It's everything's with CBS. I feel like their crowd mics are better. I feel like they get the environment of a football game better. I mean, Nestler and Gary Danielson just sound awesome on the call. Everything about that broadcast, it returns the pageantry of college football that I feel like sometimes is lost on TV broadcasts.
Yeah. It hits you with the open, the music. Yes. And then you go to the sideline reporter, which is sweet as well.
Well, I think, remember. Hey, Bonnie Bernstein retired a long time ago, Schmitty.
I know, but
openly
Jenny,
crushing.
No, she's really talented, but she also has been to Tina's before, which is cool. And she did the Big Ten Eats thing, right, Vogue?
Yeah. So like also,
Vogue wants to get the hell out of here.
No, we got to keep them around. Hey, I agree but it depends on the quality of games that CBS gets. Because I like the 2:30 standalone. Because the Michigan game was promoted all week long, and it finished third highest rated, over 5 million. Is next year they add Charles Davis.
Oh, good.
So he's coming. He's coming back to college to join Nestler with Danielson retiring.
Chuck's awesome.
Good stuff. Yeah, he does a good job. By the way, the drone operator had to be crapping himself on the F-16 flyover. He was maybe 100 feet below. It was like
okay. You were you up in your seats in the 600 level?
Yeah. So the drone is like my neighbor.
But did you? Yeah. I thought when it flew over last week, you sitting up there, you were able to look like eye to eye with the pilots in the cockpit.
Dude, they were low. I'm just like, I am glad I'm not a target. And I hope one of those guys doesn't go rogue, because they could have just completely taken out East Stadium expansion.
They had those helicopters at Notre Dame that were like hovering on the field. Those things were so low too. There's a video of the TV broadcast of them coming in. It's like kind of low, but then they had a fan that got the video of them coming over the North Stadium or from Touchdown Jesus, and the language was not appropriate for being in the face of Touchdown Jesus, because it was like, oh because those things were flying low and skimming off the hats off the people in the top row.
I feel
they're
like
not moving fast. So
this is how you can save money tearing down South Stadium, is instead of a controlled demolition, Jets come in and drop a couple bombs.
You know what? Honestly,
Elijah's demo
why
plan.
not? Why not? That stuff is so precision these days. Like
A military
that is a
treating mission, you just
fantastic
farm it
idea.
off to the military. Hey, we got a big target for you guys.
You'd get 200,000 people to come out and watch that.
Yeah, but do I get to at least get my plank, my 4 seats there?
If the thing goes flying enough and you're in the right spot,
Take them with you.
know.
All right.
Bogues, what do you got rocking with Counter Read? Tell folks how they get on board.
Yeah, before we do that, I got to track all the way back for Black Hills Burn-In. I do like UCF a little bit today, plus 5.5 K-State. It's not, I don't love it, but if I had to play it, that's where I'd play. At Counter Read, we'll kind of do a bye-week reset for Monday, coming out of things with a Monday column, and then we'll jump back into the swing of things with whatever Matt Rule has to say on Monday. Thursday will be the big Michigan State game preview, which I still think is a pretty interesting game. And that's kind of the week ahead. Do 2 newsletters a week for free subscribers, 2 for paid. So join us in one of those formats.
And real quick, Brandon, in the bye week here, your recommended concern level for Nebraska fans about Michigan State, 1 being don't worry about it, got it in the bag, 10 being like, oh my God, the whole thing is going to fall apart. Where are you at?
7.
6, I would say,
Ooh,
which
okay.
is probably down a little bit from, I mean, when we did our picks here on this show, I picked that as a loss and a win over Michigan. Well, you can flip those, and I think Nebraska would still come out fine. But I thought Michigan State looked better than I expected against USC in a loss. So we'll see. They got some tough receivers, and I think Aiden Charles has so far been better than he was a year ago. So they've got some ways to test Nebraska.
Bogues, we love you, brother. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
There
Thanks,
he is,
Brandon.
Brandon Vogel, counterread.com at Brandon L. Vogel.
He didn't say he loved us back, but I think we can just go ahead and assume it. Right?
I heard some hollering, so I think he was tending to the kids. So good on him, hanging tight. Welcome in the Iron Horse.
Toddlers
Gary-
are just little drunk people running around, right?
Gary Sharp
Emotional.
with us. Sharpie,
I'd agree.
hugs
Yeah.
to you. Love the hat, brother. Thank you
Thank you.
for your sentiment yesterday, bud.
Well, I appreciate that. For all of us that knew Matt Verzal, still shocked, and someday it'll make sense. But I think if you didn't know who Matt was, all of the outpouring since news came out Thursday night through yesterday just lets you know everything you need to know about him. He was a people magnet. He was an A+ person. He'd do anything for you, and he will be sorely missed. Not only amongst us friends that we're blessed to get to know him, but our community. He did so much for Omaha through a pizza joint, which is amazing. And it was cool last night, Scott, where he had been a assistant coach. This year he had stepped away so he could focus more on the business. They did a special decal, and his relationship with Matt Turman is, goes way back to when they, back in the days of high school and all the way through Nebraska. So thanks to everybody that reached out. Yesterday was a tough day. Today's a little bit better, and we'll get through this, and we'll do our best to remember Matt in the best way. And, I just keep in your prayers, his mom, his sister, his brother-in-law, who a lot of people know, Ben, and then of course his nephews, one of which plays baseball at Nebraska. Those are people that were a special part of his life.
For sure.
Yeah, it was super tough news, man. Matt would like take you in right away, even though he's like a tough guy, right? The first time you meet him is you feel like you've known him forever. You just go to that level right away. You don't meet a lot of people like that. And then, Gary, you just touched on it, just the sheer versatility and amount of talent that he had across so many things. Who the hell can run a pizza joint, a successful one, coach offensive line, and be a media member in the same damn day.
Yeah.
You know,
And
and
kill it
be
all.
a good dude. Right.
Yeah.
And be a good dude in the process, man. I mean, that was really tough. Really tough. So yeah, thoughts to his family for sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all of you for reaching out. I appreciate that.
One thing that never happened during Versus and the Terminators era was consecutive losses. Do you see that, Sharpie?
Wow. Are we wait a minute.
On the schedule.
Are we doing this? Let's just
I'm
talk
just
about
asking.
let's just talk about Mahomes Raiola.
Really?
I'm
gonna go
just
get some
kidding.
coffee.
I'm just
Well,
kidding.
I still have some vodka left from yesterday. Let me go settle in. If we're gonna do this.
So I think this is like the whole conversation all week long, and it's wild that it focused on Dylan, but Dylan exposed a lot of people in the media about they have personal vendettas against Raiola, and they don't like Mahomes, they don't like Raiola. What was like the proper emotion, like right after the game, like deflating, frustrating, disappointing, oh, here we go again, to like as the week has gone along and kind of vibing how Rule has approached it. I don't know. I think Rule has gone back and forth on how to properly digest this loss. It's a loss. That we're past the time of the narrative being about talking. It's the narrative has to be results driven, and we all know. I mean, we've talked about it immediately following the game and this past week is, they had a missed opportunity, but you can't let Michigan beat you twice.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan State does some nice things. They have some questions on their lines. They hung with USC, as Bill was alluding to, a little bit longer than I thought the other night. But this is a game where, I think you're going to be a nice little favorite. If you are everything that you continue to talk about, it's just a little hiccup in the season, and you get right back on track because the month of November you're now, or the month of October, I should say. Everybody's going to say, "Oh man, you should go unbeaten." You should, the next time you get that opportunity, USC, man, you're going to be 7-1.
Need to be,
but they're starting a gauntlet here. They got their bye. Fortunately, they don't have any major injuries outside of Hartzog, which is something to watch. And I think that's a little bit worse than is being led on. It's just go time. So this is Nebraska. So every team from Northwestern to Michigan State is a worry. Don't overlook Maryland next week. They lead the country in sacks with 16. They have a very intriguing freshman quarterback. It's in an unfamiliar place. But first up, Michigan State. I like Nebraska's matchup with Michigan State.
Why?
Well, you look at their defense. Their defense is not very good. The red zone defense is not very good. I think this feels like a 45-31 game, which will not make people happy because there's 31 scored by Michigan State. But let's just look at the offense. I think Nebraska has a chance to be very efficient offensively because of some of the weaknesses that Michigan State has. And the fact you got Dylan. You got Dylan and the wide receivers.
Nebraska rush defense. Where do you come down on this? I still contend even after that game. I don't think Nebraska is outmanned and outgunned from a talent point of view. I think they are getting out schemed. And I feel like down to down they're okay. But I feel like they have some fundamental flaws, whether that is players knowing what to do or Butler overlooking a few things. Because I mean, you just think about Underwood's touchdown, right?
Yeah.
That's not getting pushed around. That is like there is not a human occupying the middle of the freaking field.
Yeah, they get schemed out. They got schemed out of their coverage.
Right. And so I don't think now there were a few plays. Riley Van Poppel got washed out a couple times, but that still happened to Hutmacher sometimes last year, and he's one of the strongest human beings walking the earth. I just don't think it's I don't know. Where do you stand on that? Do you see it as like, oh my God, teams are just gonna push them around, or do you see it more like maybe dial in your personnel, maybe dial in your assignments, and you could probably fix most of this.
or simplify your calls.
Could be part of it. Yep.
Well, how about make a play? I mean, I know that's the simple part of that, but there were chances to make a play with a tackle in a hole when you came down from the safety spot and you whiffed, and all of a sudden a 5-yard carry turned into a 75-yard carry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tough play for a safety. I know what you're saying. It is,
but you got to
ideally
you got to
make
put a
that
hat.
play.
You got to put a hat on a guy.
At least touch him, right?
Especially if you're an older guy. Now, if you're a younger guy, and Rex Guthrie, who we all are pretty high on, Rex Guthrie got welcomed to the Big Ten. I mean, he struggled a little bit, but he played a lot of snaps, and you hope that benefits him. I don't know. It's it's a conundrum right now on defense because the same problems that we thought they were going to have are still there, and that's defensive line. And whether it be young guys playing or guys, not being able to win one-on-one battles, I think it comes down to simply just doing your job. Now, also, Nebraska's kind of morphing into a 4-man front. I think we're about to retire the 3-3-5. I think we're going to start with a 4, and then you figure out, who are the other 7 numbers? Where do they go? So I think they're just they're trying to figure out their way up front to protect some guys so they don't get exposed. But also, when their busts have happened, they've gotten taken advantage of. Cincinnati and Michigan both did that. And you could play the game of you take out the couple of long runs by Michigan. The yards per carry weren't bad, but still those long runs are still, part of the total. So I just think guys need to play better, but they've got to get better quicker up front with the guys that are playing up there because they're going to get exposed and they're going to go against Big Ten offensive lines of good run blocking offensive lines. But quite simply, you have to win one-on-one battles. Do your job, win those, make the play, move on to the next play.
And that goes back to the 2 sparring matches before the championship fight. And I'd mentioned that Akron and Houston Christian, God bless them, maybe the worst team to come in and the most overmatched team to come in. And I said, you play Michigan, the speed is different. The size of player is different. And so the play that was a whiff on 3rd down and 10 on that monster drive, you got one-on-one in the open field on a swing pass, and you missed the tackle, probably against Akron and Houston Christian, where you're going against guys who run 4.6 tops. You're going to make that tackle. You go against guys who run a 4.4 and have some size, you're going to miss the tackle. And that was evident. Nebraska did not have the best tests going into the Michigan game. Like Emmett Johnson should not have probably carried as many times as he did, so that you had people getting the ball in those moments so that they weren't being tested against Michigan. Michigan exposed Nebraska a lot. And I know Matt Rule and all those guys said, we want to get back at it. I hate having a bye week after a game like that. We want to get back at it. No, I think if this bye comes at a terrific time for this specific Nebraska football team, because this last week should have been about inventory. Where are we on this running back situation? Where are we with our defensive line? Where are we with the 3-3-5? And can we change gears a little bit and go more 4-3? But to come back and say, we want to get back to work and get back into our winning ways, then you're just putting a Band-Aid over it. There should have been inventory and soul searching the last 6 days. Okay, now on Sunday or whatever day, Michigan State's the focus. But the last week should have totally been focused on every single room in the Nebraska football program, because Michigan exposed us to whether or not they're ready for Big Ten play. They're certainly ready for G5 and Southland Conference play.
I wonder if it's more because you're right that jump is so big. We like to go down in the tunnel where the visitors come out. Take my boy down there. Michigan's impressive.
Trader.
They look a little different. They look a little different than Akron does coming out, as you might imagine.
Mark likes going down to the visitors tunnel and teaching his son new words.
I'm telling you, though.
You didn't hear this from me, but you heard it from others.
You got to hear good music. I saw they had the guy that wheels out the speaker during their tunnel walk.
Oh, I missed that part. Dang.
Yeah, that's a new thing. Like the guy, you remember the McNeese State manager during the NCAA tournament with the boombox?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one guy that is assigned to wheel out the speaker so all the players can hear their music while they're walking to the field.
That is hype. That's why they won. But
I agree.
I wonder if I like that Nebraska's going against Michigan State next, because I don't consider them bottom of the heap. I don't consider them top of the heap. They're squarely in the middle of the Big Ten. They're sort of average Big Ten team. Michigan's still in that upper. Yeah, their talent level is just different. It's just it's them, it's Penn State, it's Oregon, and it's Ohio State that just recruit at an entirely different level. And I just wonder how much of that was Nebraska being outmanned from that standpoint of just like, no, you're not ready to compete with the guys whose worst player probably still starts for you.
Yeah.
Like they're just across the board. They're just tough, man. And people are like, this isn't Jim Harbaugh's Michigan. Like, no, it's not. But Jim Harbaugh's Michigan obliterated everybody.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. And you're right. Nebraska doesn't have a Barham who is one, and they don't have a Justice Haynes. And that's what teams in the Big Ten do. Teams in the Big Ten have good offensive and defensive lines. They usually have a really good safety as well, who patrols the back end. And then either you have a really good quarterback or a really good running back, and you'd love to have both. And the teams that have both are the teams that are in the upper echelon. Is this just, a simple thing of not only everybody talks about the physicality. I mean, that's startling. When your athletic director references it, you're like, do you think Nebraska was overwhelmed by the visual of how much they got dominated? I mean, I know they know that it was going to be a physical game going in, but they couldn't have in their wildest dreams thought that they would get manhandled in certain spots like they did that just blew up game plans on both sides of the ball.
And so I think the thing that jumps out there is the play of your offensive tackles. Like
Yes.
that part was alarming. And some of that is Michigan's style where they line up wide. They have a ton of power and ability, at those end spots.
Speed.
And so they got a full head of steam, and you got to be able to absorb that blow. I have not seen offensive tackles get pancaked like that. I don't know ever, honestly. Like, can you think of a time when an offensive tackle just got pancaked? I mean, Sue didn't even do that to people hardly, right? Like, he drove people back, but my God, so I don't know what you do there. Well, I really don't know what you do about that, because you're just sort of like, you kind of have to stay on your feet, man. Like, maybe get low, do more push-ups. I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do about that, because that part was by far the most alarming.
Well, and what Michigan has that Nebraska doesn't have, which the hallmark of Nebraska, great defenses at Nebraska, and the hallmark of really great defenses everywhere, is you got to have a guy, and Searles told us this probably 5 years ago, and I love going back to it. You got to have a guy defensively that offensive coordinators in the week leading up to the game circle and say, this guy will wreck our game plan if we don't take care of him. Yeah. We need to have a plan in place going into this game that this guy can't kill us.
Yeah.
Michigan had that guy. I don't think Nebraska on their defense this year has a guy that you have to circle and say, if we don't take care of this guy, we're not going to be able to operate our offense.
I think Shavers can become that guy. I don't think he's there right now, but he's shown flashes of being that guy.
The other part of that circle with Barham is, how about the coaching job Michigan did, moving him? I mean, they moved him from inside to out and said, have at it. And good luck anticipating that, unless you got, I don't know, spies and microphones. So
Nebraska doesn't play like that.
No, they don't. But that was really well done by Wink Martindale. That was a really impressive tweak that turned out to be something Nebraska or nobody had planned for. And then it was executed, and he had no answer for it in game. And you may have no answer for it if you're playing Michigan this week or next week.
Yeah,
he's that good.
Yeah, they moved him before they played Central Michigan. They moved him, and he had a huge day. Going back to something Mark said, you can't replicate that in practice. Nobody on the scout team has that kind of speed. They might have the physicality. I also think another element was the speed. Michigan looks so much faster than Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's a result of, throwing Bill's thing in here, the previous two opponents that you had not seen that kind of game speed. So does that get rectified? Because now not everybody's going to have Michigan speed, but they're going to have Big Ten, so to speak, speed from here on out.
One thing I don't want to entertain, and I'm just curious where you stand on this, is that the offensive struggles are somehow on Dylan, and there are some instances maybe where he holds it too long. I'm not saying that he's not, or maybe he could have climbed the pocket a little bit. But when you're under that level of siege, it's just sort of like, what do you expect? Put it this way, if Nebraska had an average quarterback, they ain't at 75% completion. They're not completing half of what that guy, the production that he is getting under that kind of pressure is absurd. I mean, he's really playing outstanding ball. But there's only so much he could do, right? I mean, it's,
and all those things, it's the same thing, stepping up into the pocket, kind of a peripheral awareness. He has a tendency to back up into pressure, and that's when he gets sacked. But he also done a better job of moving the pocket. I mean, he's never going to be what we want him to be, to just take off and be fleet-footed. So you have to work around those. But when he's able to get his feet set and square his shoulders, then you see some magic happen. I think a couple of things where Michigan wrecked their game plan. Man, they had a lot of wide receiver routes that were 10 or more yards downfield. So those had to develop, and he just didn't have time. When he was clean and those routes were quick, it was at about 2.35 seconds he was getting the ball out. But when there was pressure, it was about a little over 3.5 seconds. But the wide receivers also, in that case, they got to do a better job getting out of their break. Mm-hmm. They adjusted at times, and when they did, and Dylan was clean, they were able to do some stuff. But it also goes back to Nebraska has to be able to run the ball when they want to run the ball. Emmett had 5 carries for 10 yards in the second half.
Yeah. They were so one-dimensional, it was scary, and yet they still hung around. Sharpie, I want to ask you this about some of the coaching carousel, and I was talking to a buddy last night who is kind of plugged into the Nebraska offensive side of the football, and they just love what Dana brings. They really enjoy playing for him, and I don't see Dana. Maybe he's contacted by Oklahoma State, maybe he's not, but they're moving away from the Gundy experience clearly. So they're going to go a different route. But do you worry about?
They get about a discount rate, Bill.
Do you worry about people knocking on Dana's door after the season?
No, I don't. Unless Dana is pursuing them.
That's the other part of the conversation.
Yeah, like Oklahoma State. I know it's why it makes sense that you would put Dana on a list. But if I'm Oklahoma State and I just got rid of Mike Gundy,
you're not going to
and
Dana.
I'm not going to Dana just because there's a similar profile. I'm going to somebody like a Kinney or a Trailer at Texas State.
You can't go mullet to mullet. No.
Yeah, and I mean, you hope that Dana's the 2-year commitment is real. He's got 2 years with Dylan. Dylan's got 2 years with him. They got a marriage. One wasn't going to come back without the other in the offseason. So they're together, and you can do that. What I would like to see, I did this the other day. Is Carl Pelini the last Nebraska assistant to get hired straight to a head coaching job? Before that, maybe Kevin Steele and Tony Samuel. It doesn't happen very often at Nebraska.
No.
Warren Power.
There were opportunities. I mean, I think.
Yeah, like Tim Beck probably could have been the KU guy in 2014, but they couldn't hire a guy off a fired staff.
No.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Norvell, Watson. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, you got to go back, and even in the Glory era, guys maybe thought about doing their own thing, but eventually just stuck and stayed. I mean, you didn't have any turnover, really. I mean, you had Kevin Steele and Tony Samuel. That's about it. But they did a hell of a job when they were here for their 5-6 year spurt. But you didn't have Milt or Dan really seriously consider going somewhere. Maybe it was Utah or Utah State for Dan Young once upon a time. And then Coach McBride probably he got offered every year by the NFL, but it wouldn't have been as a coordinator. Yeah. It would have been as a position coach, go coach linebackers. So, but they just kind of stuck with it, and everyone put in a quarter century together and did really well. So,
well, there was a guy that we thought was going to take a head coaching job that was in action last night, and Tony White.
Oh yeah, got their first L. Mm-hmm.
That looked rough.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what? Maybe Nebraska did win this weekend because all I see in my timeline is James Williams. James Williams this,
geez.
James Williams that.
Did you see
People
the
need to
old?
get over that.
Did you see the lovely Twitter research this week of the snapshots of Nebraska transfer portal departures and their stats this week this season?
It should be noted after last night, James Williams now has more tackles than Castellanos, their starting quarterback. So
Okay, well that's good.
big development.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Nebraska, we shouldn't pay attention to Florida State. What we really should pay attention to is any Nebraska player that transfers to Rice because they end up in the NFL. Luke McCaffrey and Brant Banks, who is maybe,
Look at that.
I mean, two-sport. I mean,
Yeah, he just made the 53 man for who
The
was
Packers.
it? Packers.
Yeah, Nebraska basketball got on the ticker the other night because they had a guy that's now signed to be on an active roster in the NFL, and Brant Banks.
That's right.
Was he an Iowa transfer though?
Brant Banks?
Yeah.
No, he was
recruited
out of
Texas.
Houston. He was recruited by Nebraska. Never played here. He plays they're in the COVID game.
I know his story,
Yeah.
but
Then he transfers to Rice, and now he's in the NFL.
Is that two former Nebraska basketball players in the NFL with Brant Banks and then Jacobson?
tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jacobson went off to Iowa State, and then after Iowa State went off to the NFL to go play tight. I don't know if he's still in the league or not.
Look at that. I mean, that
Yeah.
if you're, I mean,
Pipeline.
you used to work in the sports information department, Bill. You could have easily sold that as Fred Hoiberg has coached X amount
Two
of pros.
NFL players.
You just don't need to specify that it's basketball.
Well, so back to the coaching thing, and be curious to hear what Dana says on Tuesday about the offense and moving forward and what it looks like. And I think everybody that's played has kind of played, but now that we go into October, I think we need to kind of start to make our minds up on Carter Nelson. Where he's at, what his role is going to be. Hey, that would have been a game last Saturday to have Markway healthy because he would have been your blocking guy. Harburg can't necessarily block, but God, you'd love to have him on the field to catch. But in that situation, you need a guy to help out on the offensive line. Lindenmeyer has kind of morphed into a security blanket and a good security blanket for Dylan. But I'll be curious to hear what Dana says about his offense, what he thought in that game, and then maybe the usage, because it's not like they're going to introduce a bunch of new guys, and then the big thing will be who's going to be running back two. You talk about, is Oklahoma State going to come get Dana? Hey, can 135 programs out there come get Nebraska's running back coach? Because they've got to figure that out. That is, the running back position at Nebraska is embarrassing. I look at the sidelines of the 95 team, and one of the greatest, if not the greatest running back of all time is not with us in Lawrence Phillips, but I look at Clinton Childs. I know there's Damon there, and you're like, man, Nebraska used to have a plethora of running backs, and we never used to worry about that position. That position is a worry because you're going to have a guy that cannot withstand 12 games. I mean, he's at 71 carries right now. And in Cincinnati, Michigan, it's basically been all Emmett. But Nebraska knew this going in, and I don't know if it was stubbornness or failure or striking out on prospects, but boy, they're paying for it right now because that's a problem. Not finding somebody to take Emmett off the field and at least give him a breather, but also add to your offense. And I think right now Mosey and Nelson are just kind of learning, and Parker, isn't going to help you. And you thought maybe he could. It's just the running back room is a mess behind EJ.
It is, and there's two things you never thought would be an issue at Nebraska: run blocking and running back room. Okay. Because of what you'd been for so long. And I know times change and philosophies shift, and you're in a really brutal league when it comes to physicality. But I mean, you are, but you aren't that far removed from, the days of Rex and Amir together, and you had a nice stackage of Roy and then Rex and then Amir. And then you got to go to Ziggy for your last 1,000-yard rusher, and thank the good Lord for Ron Brown finding Emmett Johnson.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have Emmett Johnson, you're really screwed at running back.
Well, one of the things that bothers me in that, what you just said, though, and has bothered me all week, is you said physicality. Okay, yeah, there are issues with the entire running back room, both behind the desk and sitting in the other desks. But when you hear somebody named Biff say we are beating the snot out of them physically, that speaks to overall conditioning and strength and that program. That was never the case back in the day. So if I'm Matt Rule, I'm playing that 15-second clip
loop
over and over and over again. A guy named Biff just said, "You're not very tough and you're not very strong. We're just beating the snot out of you." And that was, I'm sure, edited for television. But doesn't that bother you to say we are getting beat up physically if you're a Nebraska football player? I get that you got sleep pods and whirlpools. Ndamukong Suh used to have his name on the strength complex. I'm not sure if it's still there since they moved to the new building. It
still is.
Yeah. Well, okay, then lift and play like him. Because that would really piss me off if my name's on the weight room and the Nebraska invented the strength and conditioning program for college football and college athletics because, Boyd Epley got hurt and couldn't pole vault. But when the guy gets up there in your own house too and says we're just beating the snot out of these guys, that's problematic. I'd put that on loop for the this 2-week period and say this guy just says you're not very tough and physical, and you're a Nebraska football player.
Use it as motivation. That might just be a Michigan thing because guess what? The last 4 years they've done it to Ohio State. So Nebraska is not unique in getting dominated on the line of scrimmage by a Michigan.
But don't leave it so that a coach can say it.
Well,
no, I get it.
I think he was saying a lot of things. I mean, the one
want to invest in a hedge fund, Sharpie?
The speed aspect is something that needs to be fixed sooner than later. I mean, Nebraska doesn't. We all love Emmett, and thank God Emmett is tough because man, he gets crushed and he pops right back up. But Nebraska doesn't have a running back like Haynes that can pull away from everybody.
Well, and that's where I was going to go here with Nebraska. I actually think Nebraska's defensive line physically held up against Michigan's offensive line. It was errors in run fits and errors in technique and guys occasional loafing it that Michigan just took advantage of. Like Nebraska's defensive line, they weren't great, but from a physicality point of view, I actually think they did a decent job holding up at the line of scrimmage. Now you got to do a better job keeping offensive line off of linebackers, but it was just that Michigan punished you brutally anytime there was minor mistakes. That's what Michigan does.
Wasn't second and six all the time, to your point. I mean, it was a home run play. Now, one drive you couldn't get off the field. Sharpie, we're playing the...
To flip it around, though, I do think Nebraska's offensive line was physically off the mark against Michigan's defensive line was kicking the snot out of Nebraska's offensive line.
Yeah, especially in the second half. Sharpie, as we wind down, brother, you can throw in your recommendations for the average Joe, mother of all college football parlays this Saturday. What are you circling?
All right, so are we using the spread or just straight up? Did Mark just give us the finger?
No, Mark heard parlay and he's back.
He's back. Yeah, what's going on?
The average Joe parlay.
Okay, so I will throw.
Retire tomorrow.
I will throw one in there. I think Washington is being disrespected. How many times has Ohio State, whether at home or on the road, play an unranked team and they're not a double-figure favorite? Now, I think it has jumped to 10.5, so I could be wrong here, but I looked at it last night. It was 8.5. You know what? I think that's a competitive game in Seattle. I would take Washington. Yeah, I think Ohio State will win. But if you are gonna give me 10.5, I'll take Washington today. I like Fish and Damon Williams together.
7.5 makes me think 10.5. I'm on Washington.
Okay. Yes.
So it depends where that line ends up.
I think Washington wins outright.
Whoa.
Wow.
Really? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
Hey, Caleb Downs against Damon Williams, and I think Caleb Downs should be mentioned on a top 10 Heisman list, the safety for Ohio State. The thing about Ohio State is we've forgotten about them. They played a big opening game, and they just kind of waltzed through, and they're coming off a bye, and you're like, oh, yeah, Ohio State, they're still out there. This will be a day, and it's also kind of to your point, Schmidt, maybe this is why you're thinking this way, Julian Sayen's first road start. and it's in a place where you haven't been. It's not like last year you went on road games and you're like, oh, I've been here before. I've been in this locker room. New place, it'll be loud. I don't know what the weather is in Seattle, but you got a chance that it's going to rain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty good team in Washington. This is a great day for the Big Ten.
Where are you at in Big Ten?
you
Where are
like
you at
Iowa?
Indiana and Iowa?
Yeah.
I think that if it is close after the first quarter, it could be an interesting Kennett game. But if Indiana goes in there and throws a left and a right away, then I think they have a chance to blow Iowa out. Iowa's lost 10 straight to ranked teams. People forget that.
Just a few more to get caught up, huh?
Well, and I think if Indiana shows up today and Indiana does work, yes, thank you. Indiana does work, then you're like, okay, they could still drop road games in Eugene and State College, and they probably are your fourth playoff team out of this league.
Well, you're sitting awesome
Yeah.
if you're the Big Ten right now, because I think I picked Illinois to bounce back. This is kind of my last stand with Illinois because they came in hot and they got embarrassed last week. So I don't know if they man up and find a way. It's a tough turnaround for SC to go on the road with that kickoff time, but they look incredible. And I also thought, Sparty's front seven, I know they gave up a boatload of points, but from a physicality standpoint, I liked Michigan State's defensive line and linebackers. They just weren't real consistent. And I liked their running back. So that has my wheels turning already for next Saturday against Sparty. But no, I don't think Michigan State's anything to sneeze at. I think USC, when they're interested, is just dynamite offensively. They're fun. They do whatever the hell they want with a mobile quarterback. So if you're the Big Ten, you've got Indiana looking great. SC's still money. Michigan is clearly someone not to mess with their win last weekend. So you've got a bunch of choices on top of your top three that we think about.
Staying in the Big Ten, I noticed that Taylor's not playing again today for Minnesota. So he's out for the second straight game.
That kills him.
They play Rutgers at home. Rutgers has got a quarterback that would like to finish his career 2-0 against his original team.
Mm-hmm.
Who has more, and this is why I love the Big Ten slate today. In the slate period, it'd be nice if the U.S. participated in the Ryder Cup. Maybe next time the U.S. should get more Americans on their roster. But it's a great sports weekend, great day. But the Big Ten, the Big Ten spreading out their television networks, today is the ideal day. They drop a good one at 11. They drop a good one at 2:30. They got a great one at 6:30. Is there any narrative changing discussion about Dan Lanning concerning tonight's game? I know all the focus is on Franklin and his big games, but what if Oregon doesn't play well again tonight?
They're the Atlanta Braves.
Does it matter?
Well, not necessarily, because they can still go do damage in the playoffs. They with their schedule, they can still be 10-2 because they've got some makeup opportunity on their schedule. Don't you think?
Yeah. And I'm saying, does it matter? I'm saying, the last time they were in a big setting, they got run off the field by Ohio State. They go clear across the country. They're in a whiteout, which Ohio State is supposed to just, that's their game. They're not much of an underdog. It's sit around 3.5 points. I think this is a scary situation if you are pro Dan Lanning. This seems like he walks into this situation. I'm going to show you who Dante Moore is. I got an incredible freshman wide receiver. We're Oregon. I think it gets really, really uncomfortable if Oregon goes across the country and does work tonight at State College.
Oh,
ESPN lists the tickets as low as, with a little referral link where you can buy. What do you think tickets are as low as for Oregon and Penn State?
Get-in price is probably $175.
I was going to say like $360.
$765.
Jeez.
So that place is going to be a freaking buzzsaw tonight.
Okay.
Well, the ESPN
It might be, but you still got
ESPN
James Franklin and Drew Aller.
That was my flip to the coin was what happens if James Franklin loses this game at home? They think they ought to be winning national titles every year.
Can he coach offensive tackles?
If they lose this game and they're, a preseason favorite to win, not just to get to the college football playoff, but to win the whole thing. And you've got Oregon come to town. You've got the whiteout. and all that, and if Dan Lanning and the Ducks go in and buzzkill you, what's the rest of the season going to be like for James Franklin and Penn State? That will be the most talked about job situation in the country.
8-4. This, you know.
Wow, if they
9-3,
lose
8-4.
tonight.
If he goes 8-4, he leaves.
Good.
I
Good
can't
stuff.
imagine he stays.
Well, they're in a, you know, they would be in purgatory of what to do with a coach that's successful. But if he's 8-4, then you're kind of in the Dabo situation. Hey, you've done a lot of good stuff for me. Dabo, you know, has a national championship, but you know, you can't, you know, I think what have you done for me lately has never become more appropriate in college football.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey, I know you've been a great coach, Mike Gundy, but what have you done for me lately? Oh, you had one tough stretch. We got to move on before we fall behind everybody. Now, I know there's other circumstances at Oklahoma State, but I don't know. You know, like I look at two coaches that are coaching today that if they win, whose narrative gets changed more? James Franklin or Kellen DeBoer?
DeBoer.
Because Alabama,
they're on the ledge, bro.
Georgia, Kirby Smart. Now Kirby Smart against Alabama, and all of these except last year against Saban. He's what, 1-6 against Alabama.
They also have not beaten Bama, yeah.
But they're something like 50-1 at home in their last 51 games. So if Alabama goes in there and wins, all of a sudden you forget about the Florida State loss, which didn't age real well last night, and you go, okay, maybe Alabama is back. You know, if Penn State wins tonight, yes, it's a win to add to the record against top 5 teams, but you'll go, well, they were a favorite and it was a whiteout game. You know, the only way that Franklin can win this year is the national championship.
I'd say that's the only narrative the only way he can change the narrative is to go win a natty.
Okay, so love playing the coaching carousel game. I like James Franklin a lot. I think he's a really good guy. But if they were to lose, or at any point this season, there are people that are ready to move on from him. What's the fit for him at UCLA? I mean, does he want to go out there where you are second fiddle to USC in Los Angeles? You've got to share your money with the rest of the Cal schools. But to me, that would be a refreshing start for that program. Now, he may not leave Penn State ever, but I'm in the topic of conversation with coaches, hot seats and on the move, or how they solidify their programs. If they lose tonight, his seat will be hot. There are people ready to move on from him, just like there are people, if Alabama wins at Georgia, doesn't matter. There are still people at Alabama who have in their minds, and they've got money in their pockets, they don't want him there anymore. So I'm just playing this coach's carousel game, which is already spinning with Virginia Tech, UCLA, Gundy, Oklahoma State. It's already moving.
Yeah.
Didn't used to be that way. But if what happens in Oregon will have I think a real interest, or at Penn State will have a lot to do with how the conversation goes from here on out.
Yeah, I have a hard time with UCLA. Miami can get away. Miami can get away with a stadium being 45 minutes away, because they are in an area where Miami football still kind of matters, and they're in a hotbed of recruiting where they can keep more guys home. UCLA Stadium is 45 minutes away. There's no interest. Thank God UCLA has some really good opponents coming there to fill their stadium in the Big Ten. I mean, they can't wait for Nebraska to get there to buy up those seats and maybe take a tarp off a section or two. I think UCLA being in the state school system, which they got some financial issues.
Totally.
I mean, they got some issues on campus. I don't think they have a great athletic director. What is their focus of football? And also, let's be honest, UCLA is such a paper tiger. We sometimes talk about UCLA like it's this great program.
They've had great.
You know what? It was a great program, ironically, when they won in the old Orange Bowl against Miami. Yeah. Long time ago, I think when Edge was running for the Canes. UCLA had to come into the Big Ten because USC did. And UCLA in the biggest sport were not prepared to be in football. But you also have some bad hires. Sean Foster should have never been coaching in the Big Ten.
Well, why
he should have been? He should have been running your running back room or calling plays.
Why did you get rid of Mora? You may have been pissed at him going 8-4 with first round talent, but at least he's going 8-4, 9-4. I mean,
why'd they get rid of Pepper Rogers?
Well, why'd they get rid of Solich?
Why did Terry Donahue?
Terry
die?
Donahue, yeah.
Yeah.
I can call it Terry Donahue.
I mean, I think, they've had, we remember around here, oh man, those games like in the 80s and 90s against UCLA were fun because there was Aikman was playing and it was pretty cool.
That was a not fun game out there.
But they do have, like the team that beat Nebraska last year had some nice NFL talent on it, and they played better as the season went along. But I think UCLA is who they are. Matt Rule told Tony White after he came back from his interview, what is their NIL situation? Look at our NIL situation. Look at theirs. And they said, okay, let's go back to work wearing our Nebraska polo. And Tony's thing was, I took the Florida job because Florida State. I think going to Florida State helps me to get a head coaching job closer to recruiting hotbeds than taking the UCLA job would have been, where it's probably, coaching malpractice and you don't get another job.
Well, the thing is what couldn't you argue though that in the new era of revenue sharing of 20.5 that levels the playing field a little bit for UCLA, that despite the fact that they have no NIL, they can at least be competitive with $20.5 million to spend.
But there isn't the number one sport on that campus men's basketball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They've got to share the money with all the hyphens.
Yeah.
Every UC hyphen, school,
you got to chip off $1 million a year just to everybody else.
Yeah, that's why they the California government allowed UCLA to go to the Big Ten. There's an agreement that you will split the money with the rest of the school.
Listen, there's no interest in UCLA football in Southern California. I mean, you're in Westwood and you have to drive all the way to Pasadena. Yeah, you play in the Rose Bowl, but that Rose Bowl doesn't look like it does on January 1. It looks like when they played New Mexico, that was embarrassing. I mean, there were so many empty seats. There was no atmosphere. It looked like a miserable experience to be playing at UCLA.
It looked like a Stanford home game.
And I don't know how lenient it is from an entrance standpoint with NIL now. Maybe it's better, but for the longest time too, coaches we've talked to say it is murder trying to get kids your top picks in. Sometimes if a kid's coming from a tough school setup, I mean, the UCLA is hard as hell to get into for most people. I mean, it's right up there with Wisconsin and Northwestern.
Well, USC actually is harder to get into. They both are difficult
because it's private, right?
Yeah. But with USC, another thing that hurts UCLA is what if USC gets this rolling again? They're the school in Southern California. And also, everybody comes into Southern California to recruit. And UCLA, it's not like they have a foothold of, I want to go there. They're going to go to the USC program, especially if Lincoln Riley churns out another Heisman Trophy winner. Maeva, does what he does. And USC has more of a financial commitment to football. I mean, hey, credit to USC. They sold out their home game against Michigan. It's college football, unless Pete Carroll is coaching and Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush are in the backfield and you have that kind of setup, college football, there's so many other things to do in Southern California.
On top of Washington and Oregon coming in and raiding your best talent that doesn't go to USC.
Yeah. Is today the coming out party for USC against Illinois?
I like USC. I think that's a good football team. That there's people haven't watched because they didn't stay up to watch it at 10 o'clock, Nebraska time last week. I think that's a good football team. I would be very curious to see how Illinois responds. Like they got their ass kicked. It wasn't just, hey, we lost. They got destroyed by a guy who shoved it in their face and basically used what their program is built on against them.
Indiana has an uncanny ability to kick your ass
because they have a coach that has a mentality. That's what he does.
He's a good talent evaluator.
Very sharp, very quick. They just play, their pace is just different. I think it can surprise some people, but I think it could wake Illinois up. I never thought Illinois was some juggernaut, coming into this year, but they're solid. They're solid. I don't think USC is going to have their way with Illinois today.
It'll be a true test for SC if they're ready to play grown man ball in the trenches. That's what it means for me today. Sharpie, we'll let you get on with it. We love you, brother. Appreciate you much.
Hey, thank you guys. Good conversation. Enjoy the bye week. Boy, the Nebraska has done a good job of picking their bye weeks. Like this weekend, go ahead and get married, and we won't complain. But it's okay to lay on the couch all day and watch football from 11 a.m. all the way to 11 p.
Well, yeah, because the Ryder Cup's not going to be worth watching. Doesn't look like.
No, Bryson had a chance for birdie. That's why I reacted that way. Hey,
Yeah.
another sneaky game. Arizona Iowa State is a nighttime game at 6.
Good one. Yeah, Arizona's unbeaten. Yeah. That'll be all right. Little Big 12 time. It's the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, Mr. Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbel, Pride of Fairbury's Bill Doleman, Chris Schmidt will be with you tomorrow, Sunday live at 10:30. Like and subscribe to the Average Joe Sports Show, fellas. Enjoy your bye.
Did you have something, Mark?
Well, yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
Now I feel put on the spot. Oh my God. Should we talk about Major League Baseball playoffs? Should we talk about? There's so many topics that we could go to right now. You caught me flat-footed. That just happens.
Wow.
Happy anniversary, Chris. Right? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah. 22 years.
Yep.
Hey, congratulations!
That's my 3-month anniversary.
Gary, as
recently.
Sharpie always says to me, "How's your wife and my kid?" So,
No, there was a complication back in the day, and I had to step in.
pinch hitter.
Yes, I did hit it.
Go into the bullpen.
That's your problem.
Yeah. Oh my.
Well, congratulations. What are you doing for your anniversary?
I am playing 18 at Iron Horse.
With your wife
No.
or okay?
Absolutely
That
not.
makes sense.
Then I'm going to dinner tonight.
With your wife?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
And no, I mean it was
Bummed
great.
about that.
I caught up with her after the football game I did last night. We went to have a drink or a couple, and she has to work today and all weekend as a nurse. So that's
At a
what
hospital.
Yeah, at a hospital, not as a private party like Ferris.
Hey, speaking of you doing a high school game, can I ask a question? Because the top of the panel lives in Lincoln. What's the reaction to 77-0? Millard South, Lincoln Southeast.
Expected.
Well, I don't.
77.
I think 77 with a running clock is insane. And I was doing some straw polling with what's really going on. And, a buddy of mine has seen Millard South and called a game. And he's like, they're one play drives, dude. Like, I mean, they're just that insanely good.
Yeah, they have 100 tackle for losses, by the way. This
That's great. Yeah, that's the other thing you said is, well, the defense is the story. As great as the offense is, defense is killing people.
Lincoln.
There was resignation.
Lincoln hasn't
That's
been
just
able.
the way it is.
Lincoln hasn't been able to compete with Omaha high school football going on 10 years now.
Like Millard South isn't
I go
even
back
Omaha
longer.
High School football. Millard South is just on another planet.
An all-star team.
They'd finish second in the Big 12 this year.
But
I mean-
didn't they do that? It was Millard
Kind
South
of
that did it to Lincoln High last year, right? And
Well, that's the game that got ended early.
yeah, and
like
that
Lincoln
was the
High did.
one.
It's a safety
Yeah.
concern.
But so now that happened to Lincoln High, and I think it was like, well, yeah, but the Lynx have been down for a long time. The Southeast one to me seemed like, I guess that's the way it's going to be from here on out. So they outcry for Lincoln High last week. I can't believe that happened. But the resignation that Lincoln High School football is where it is and will probably be for a long, long time came out of 77-0.
Is it 2011? The last
Southeast.
time that was Lincoln Southeast. Last time a Lincoln school won a Class A championship.
Yeah,
Which
it's
that
going-
Lincoln Southeast team was a bit of a Lincoln All-Star team that year, and that's what it's going to take to compete. Is you had a couple guys, your starting quarterback Najee Jackson and Devin Washington both transferred in from Lincoln High. You had a lineman or two that came in from Northeast. Like it was a bit of a Lincoln All-Star team that won that state title that year. Even now, I don't even think a Lincoln All-Star team would be able to compete with the top Omaha schools right now. It's like youth football enrollment is low in Lincoln. High school football, the turnout was low this year. Kids are playing fall baseball. Kids are playing year-round basketball in Lincoln. Like it's just
you're starting to see the fruits of what like Steve Warren at the Warren Academy has been doing.
You need
for
a
while,
Warren
right?
Academy South.
Yeah.
You need a training facility in Lincoln.
I don't know how long Steve Warren's been doing that, but they're so all over, right? I mean, they're just known. It is just part of the football culture here, and people are training year round. They're getting really good training year round. So he had a vision there, and good on him because
The other thing after I know this from living in Lincoln, because I had this concern, is your feeder programs. Like, guys, I don't know if you understand, the middle school football in this city is like super competitive.
Oh,
and then
time.
kids in middle school are playing maybe 2 games a week for their middle school. And then on Saturday and Sunday, they're driving up to Blair or to Millard or to West Side, and they're playing with their Pop Warner team.
Yeah.
So they play a lot. I mean, kids play a lot of football before they ever get to high school around here.
You've got a couple of programs that are, I think, Norris and Waverly and Pius, some of the Class Bs, they have done a good job at amping up their feeder program.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's good. But as far as what you have compared to Omaha, it's not almost non-existent.
Well, it's also been a detriment to Lincoln High School football in that the community has moved down toward Norris, so players are going there as opposed to, back in the day it was Northeast, Southeast, Lincoln High, and then East. North Star came in and Lincoln East, and then you had 4.
Southwest.
Well, now you've got Standing Bear and Northwest and North Star, and the talent has been diluted out to other schools and also to outlying areas. So, Norris has been a benefactor of the economic shift to South Lincoln and outside the city limits. And so everything is diluted. And there's not the concentration of all-star teams like a Millard South or a West Side or some of the Elkhorn schools have had, like has happened in Omaha.
I miss the good old days of the McCook Crete Class B title game. Then it
hey, I'll go back even further. Well, no, it's about
Central and Millard North.
How about when they used to play the state final in your high school stadium? You could host a home game. I mean, Benson and Norfolk.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Hastings and Lincoln. Hey, Hastings and Lincoln Southeast when Hastings was in A.
That's a sore subject, my friend, for some of us that were in stands that day.
Oh, okay.
Benson has had some.
The fighting Butenbachs came in and dismantled my boy Ty Good in Southeast.
Oh, Ty Good, yeah, Ty Good, Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, I grew up going to school with Ty, but he had 30 touchdowns that year, and it was a team meeting. Bless his heart. Every time Ty touched a football, it was a Hastings team meeting in the backfield.
Yeah. He was around the time of Eric Stokes coming out of Lincoln too, right?
93, I think was 93.
Well, there was
94 season.
There was a really good stretch of Lincoln kids that stayed home, whether it be John Hess at Southeast, all the way to Sweeney from Northeast.
Irwin, good call.
Yeah. Hey, he's on my list of what ifs if he wouldn't have gotten that popular groin injury.
Oh yeah,
because he was a speedster.
And the fact that the guy played as a true freshman and performed really well on that 97 team, and then got picked on a little bit in 98. Correct, and then might have been, but he was he had a really good finish to his career though in 01. Irwin had a really good bounce back. So, nope.
What are you doing there?
I'm fixing I'm doing a little shield here because of the sun. It looks like I'm going to the light just in time. Just in time. It's not working really well. See that? See it? But then I go like this. Oh, look at that, huh? That's what I'm doing.
Love it.
That's what I'm doing.
We will holler tomorrow, Sunday live.
Who do we got? Who do we got? World Series. Couple games left. Couple games left in the regular season.
Kraynak wants to go to the sports book, Sharpie.
Well, hey, listen. Like, do you buy into Detroit 1-9, or are they just resting dudes?
I think
they're
1-9. Cleveland, don't you?
What's that? Who? What?
I think you jump on Cleveland, don't you?
I don't know.
They've been a good story. That's still a flawed baseball team, though.
I think it's Seattle and Philly.
That would be 2 great atmospheres for the game.
Seattle is my bandwagon team for this postseason because my Rockies did not break the loss record. So what was the point of this season? Like, if you're not going to go record breaking, pointless season. I guess they have set the record for worst run differential in MLB history. They also gave up 1,000 runs this season. So
But their beers are affordable, and you're right by a dispensary, and
Yes.
it's a win.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is
All right.
true.
We can talk tomorrow about Pritchett playing left tackle, Gatula playing right tackle, and Demetrius Bell coming back and what that does for the offense.
Yes.
When does he come back?
We'll get you a link. We'll
This
get you a
week,
link.
They are ramping up Demetrius Bell to play. Now, how much he plays, I don't know, but it looks like he's cleared, and he's been with him this week.
Line him up in the slot, have him chip over on the right tackle. That's
and maybe we look and see if some guys get nobody new that we have not seen, but maybe some more additional snaps in the back end for Nebraska. Guys that are pretty good at tackling.
That would work. Stay tuned for
Caleb.
that. The Sunday Live Average Joe tomorrow at 10:30. Sharpie be good. Billy D be good. Kraynak, we'll get you a link. Love you long time. And Elijah, appreciate you, brother.
Dawson
talk to you.
Merritt is going to get a little more.
We'll talk to you next time.
You know what he does? One quick thing here.
One more thing.
Yes. I don't know what their plan is, but when he played against Michigan, he didn't look like he was overwhelmed.
No.
I wonder if he's played himself into some more snaps.
I think he needs to be, from a processing point of view, a half count quicker, but he's the best athlete you have in that linebacker room.
Yeah.
His ability to get sideline to sideline.
It wouldn't surprise me. They had a bye week. They did more one-on-ones. So maybe some guys in practice have said, okay, let's give him a shot against Michigan State.
All right.
But the guys that we've seen are pretty much going to be the guys that we have seen.
Yeah.
It's not like going to be a guy that hasn't played. All of a sudden, he's going to pop into the lineup. But
How much different are you though if it's Dawson Merritt and Shavers playing a lot?
I'm good.
I'm fine with that.
Good
Fine with that. Yeah.
I just think Watson Trent
play a lot.
is too small to play in the Big Ten on a consistent basis.
I think he can be a situational guy. I like his level of physicality though. He's not afraid to hit. It's
He's getting there to
I
hit
hear you.
something.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Anyway,
What's it all mean?
Hey, thanks guys for not bringing up more of Dylan and how TJ Lateef should play more. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Talk to you tomorrow.
He has a better passing percentage, completion percentage.
And he's so mobile in the red zone.
Yeah.
That's good. There's the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, Bill Doleman, Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Talk tomorrow at 10:30 for the third time. Sunday Live. Find us tomorrow with the Average Joe Sports Show. Like and subscribe to YouTube, on Twitter as well. AJ Sports Radio, AJ Sports Pod. Thank you.
I mean, it reminds me of Frankie London. Just
Say
put
it.
him in. Godspeed.